Hello there, and welcome to another review. What I'm looking at today is a TT Sims TT130 dual SIM mobile phone. Now the reason why I've got this is I was walking around with two smartphones, a personal smartphone and a work smartphone, and I found that two things. First of all, I was walking around with them all day long in cases and everything was actually quite inconvenient, and they were quite heavy. I used to find I've put my pockets. Of walking around with my jacket hanging strangely, or trying to pull my trousers up all the time. It just wasn't a good situation. And the other thing is that I found myself being continually distracted with email and Facebook and all the rest of it. And so I went down to this. Now this is all part of sort of downsizing my digital equipment that I carry around with me. But other people might like this as well. Like, you might like it if you want to go somewhere you don't want to take your expensive mobile phone, or if you're going overseas perhaps and you want to get a phone where you can keep your current SIM so that you can get any calls that do come in, but at the same time you want to put in an overseas SIM so that you don't get charged a lot of roaming charges, etc, etc. I can see for quite a few reasons why you'd want to have two SIMs in a mobile phone. And this is a very cheap mobile phone. I think I paid about £13 for it. And that's about the cost of a McDonald's meal for two. So that is very cheap indeed. In fact, it's incredible you can even make a mobile phone that cheaply, and you get two SIMs in it. Unfortunately, one of the first things I noticed about this mobile phone when I got it, I'll just unbox it now, full disclosure, I've reboxed it for the purpose of demonstration. Open it up, there's the handset itself. As you can see, it looks like any other mobile phone, maybe one from a few years ago. You get a charging cable, and you get a battery, and some instructions there which are fairly basic on how it all works. Put that to one side for now. Got to put the battery in. When I flip it around, you can see there's an SD card slot there and two full-size SIM card slots. Now you can on the internet get these little things. I got them from a well-known online auction site, can't think where that would be, that actually space down the nano SIMs that I did have to fit in these gaps. That works perfectly. It's a cheap solution to that problem. The thing is, these kind of SIMs are not common in use today, but not a massive problem. So I click that back together. It all feels a little bit, I don't know, for want of a better word, flimsy and cheaply built, but what do you expect for the money? And here's the problem. I can't turn it on. And the reason for that is this is the first one I got. I had two, and the first one, if I just plug it into my PC down here, there we go. Then it'll eventually come on, but the thing is, it's got a battery life measured in minutes. Literally, maybe you might get half a day of it on a good day. I plugged it in. It's asked me how I want to use it. I want to use it for charging. UDisc allows you to plug it into the PC so you can read off any files, and we'll come to that in a few minutes. Now I'm going to switch it on. And you're about to hear the ringtone as it starts up. Yeah, it's not great, is it? But it's only £13. What do you expect? And so go through these bits here. Another slight annoyance, every time you take the battery out, it loses all its settings. Well, most of them anyway. And there we are, it's up and running. There's no SIMs in this one and no SD card. And the problem I found with it was that two things. First of all, well, it had a battery life measured in minutes or possibly hours if you're lucky. And secondly, quite often when this was wobbled, I'd find it disconnected it completely. The charging stopped happening. If I just pull this out, charger is plouged out. I don't know what plouging is, but whatever it is, I've just done it. So as you can see, it's fairly, well, you're not sure what you'd expect. Anyway, I got rid of that one, and I got another one. I actually send that one back for a refund when I remember. This one's got both my SIMs in it. If I just unlock it. I have to say, generally this all works fine. It's a little bit clunky in places, the interface, but you know, it's pretty much what you'd expect. If I go in here, I can see all my options. I've got a multimedia option, I've got camera, and so on and so forth. A word of warning with charging, you have to be a little bit careful with it. What I've discovered is that it has one very strange quirk. If you charge this thing up using a USB charger, you know, the kind of thing you plug into the wall, then it actually switches off when it's full, which isn't very helpful. You leave it charging overnight and find out it's turned off in the morning, and if you don't notice, you can walk around half the day with the phone switched off and nobody can get hold of you. It's not until you come to make a call that you notice. However, I found that that doesn't tend to happen. Just give it that. Doesn't tend to happen quite so much if you plug it into a computer. In fact, it doesn't happen at all when you plug it into a computer to charge it. Now, my guess is that's because literally all the USB chargers do is they step the mains voltage down to a voltage this can charge with. It charges, it gets full, and it turns itself off to protect itself from overcharging. Whereas with the plugging into a laptop or something, it's able to tell the laptop, that's it, I'm done, I'm full, and it turns off the power. So it's a little bit of an annoyance there. Something you have to be careful of. If this is a phone for occasional use, or if you're always going to have a computer around to charge it up with, then you're probably not too worried about that. But it might be a bit of a problem if you don't. So just be careful. Battery life, I'd say it's good enough. I can get out of this second one that I've got, this one can run for about 24 hours, maybe a bit longer than that, depending on how often I use the calls and other features of the phone. It's just dropped a bar there as I've been speaking, or it's listening to me. Call quality isn't particularly good, but it's good enough. Again, I mean, you can hear what people are saying, people can hear what you're saying. There's a speakerphone built into it. Yes, you can make phone calls on it, and you can hear what people are saying, and they can hear what you've said to them. It's fine. Honestly, it works. As you can see, I've got both my O2 SIM and my Vodafone SIM working just at the moment, and the sensitivity is poor on this phone. I'd say it's on the poor side of typical. It's not brilliant, but it's perfectly good. You might have heard that beeping, that's the other one about to die because it's run out of its battery already. So it's not fantastic, but it's good enough on sensitivity. You can hear what's going on when you make a call, and it can make a call most places a typical mobile phone could, but it certainly won't impress. Bluetooth is another thing you need to be a little bit careful of. Bluetooth is basic, I think I'll say. All it does is audio. Now, that doesn't sound like a massive problem, but when you plug it into your car, you can't control it from your car, so you have no way of making a call. That's it turning itself off down there. You have no way of making a call or answering a call from the headset. Literally all you can do is you can have a call come in, you can press the button, on the head unit of the car, it'll answer the call, you can then hang it up, but you won't be able to make a call because it doesn't have voice recognition, and it won't pass the contacts across to the car, so you'd have to know the number off by heart to dial it even if you did. So essentially it's just working like a telephone headset. That might be fine, might be what you want, it might be a showstopper. There are ringtones built into it, of course, and you can choose it from a number. They all sound pretty horrible, they sound like doorbells to me, but to be honest, what do you expect for the money? It also doesn't contain any memory. You can put an SD card in there to store any photos and videos that you take. On that note, yes, it's got a camera built in, you can even do video, but at very low resolution. I mean, we're talking about year 2000 levels of cameras here, and when you've taken the video, you can't do anything with it. You can't email it to somebody from this phone, you can't even do MMS from this phone, and whilst on the subject of text messaging, it doesn't have predicted text, which is slightly annoying, but I don't send a lot of text, so I don't really care. So what you end up doing there is plugging it into your computer with a USB cable, and then you can copy the files to USB cable. However, you probably don't want to. At this point, I'm just going to mix over to a photograph. And as you can see, it looks pretty horrible. And now a video for Windmill. It is spinning. Unfortunately, it's spinning at a rate where the camera just makes it look like each blade's changing colour. So it's pretty terrible. However, having said all that, it does have one feature that the latest iPhone doesn't. It has a headphone socket. You can plug headphones into this thing, and if you do, you'll be able to listen to the radio, which is quite nice. You can listen to an FM radio. It's not brilliant reception, but it's better than nothing. Put it through the speakerphone, and the entire office can enjoy the sound of the radio if that's what you want to do. Perhaps if you're desperate to get the quick hit scores, you might like that. You might. It can also play MP3 files, which you can store on the inbuilt SD card, or the contained SD card. It doesn't have any memory itself, of course, so you will need to put an SD card in it, slightly offsetting the extreme cheapness of the handset. One other feature it can do there, if you really want to, is it can record incoming calls. Now, theoretically it can do that. I've never been able to get the feature to work, but it can actually do it. Any call that comes in or any call that goes out, it'll keep a record on the SD card of. You might find that really useful. I can't say I can be bothered, but there you have it. The way of entertainment, you have a basic puzzle game here. I suppose once you play through it a few times you'll probably be bored of it, but it is there. It's not Snake though, is it? It has, if you go into the tools, which is here, you can see you've got an alarm, which is nice. It wakes you up in the morning with its ringtone. If it hasn't turned itself off, which it often does, that's annoying. On a related note, you can tell it to set it to automatically switch itself on at a particular time of the morning if that's what you want to do. You might do, you might not. It does work. You can also tell it to turn itself off at a particular time of night. Very useful if you don't want the boss bothering you at night. There's a calculator built in, as they almost all do, and it has a torch. Now I have to say, as a torch built into a mobile phone, it's pretty good. It's bright, it's clear, you can see a long way with it. There's nothing wrong with that torch at all. There isn't really much else to say about this phone. It's a fairly typical cheap mobile phone. I mean, what do you expect for the cost of a McDonald's meal for two, really? It'll make phone calls, it'll send texts. It doesn't have many features. And you might have thought, perhaps, whilst I've been talking about it, I've been talking about the ringtones aren't very good, the battery life is only adequate, that I think this is a bad product, and I really don't. I think it's incredible that you can buy a mobile phone that has 2 SIMs in it for so little money, and that it all works. And it does actually work. Everything on this phone functions. I mean, it's not very impressive, and it's never going to any design awards, but everything on it does actually work. You can send texts, you can make phone calls, you can take photographs, and you can upload them to a computer, so you could theoretically put them on Facebook if that's what you wanted to do. But it's not really aimed at people that do things like that. It's aimed at people that want a basic mobile phone, and that's what this is. And it also is aimed at people who are going to travel. What I found using it for around a month is that actually it's very nice to downsize. I've gone down from 2 mobile phones the size of my hand, more or less, to just this, and I jump in and out of cars. In fact, at the first few days that you do this, you feel, well, like you've left something behind. But after a few days of not having a smartphone, you start getting annoyed at people that do. You're sat in a queue going to pay at the checkouts, and there's some Burke sat in front of you updating Facebook or chatting or something, and they haven't noticed the person in front of them has finished paying and has left, and you have to say to them, excuse me, and then they realise and tut and rush forward and get their shopping. I would say I would recommend this product. Be careful, and if you get a bad one, send it back. But if you buy one and you just want to go overseas for a few weeks and take your number with you and have an overseas number, or if you want to have a work or personal number, whatever you want to do, this phone will do it. Just make sure you keep it charged and don't expect too much from it given its very low price point. But honestly, yes, I would recommend this product. And when I got it, I didn't think I'd be saying that.